Hello everyone and welcome back to another lesson with me. In our last lesson we spoke about how to set up a MongoDB account, and in today's lesson we are going to go ahead and set up our server. We'll need to install a couple of dependencies and when we've successfully got that MongoDB connected message in our terminal, that will be the end of today's video. So let's get started. You can see right here that we have the job board app directory showing up in my terminal. We are going to be working in our server today, so let us cd into server and let's open up the code for all of that. Great, so now that our editor is open, the first thing we're really going to need to do is do a couple of dependency installations. There won't be too many. You can actually see that I've already done a couple of installations over here. We did MongoDB in our previous video, and I've also gone ahead and installed Express and .env. So at this point, if we take a look, there are going to be a couple of things that we're going to want to install additionally to this, and we're going to go directly into our terminal and install them. So we'll do npm install. By the way, in a previous lesson, I forgot to really go over the sort of requirements to work with npm or any other type of Node package manager. I have left a link in the comments below, so please go ahead and follow those instructions. You can either install Node with Homebrew or go directly to the Node website and try and download the package from there. But I've already done that. The last couple of things we're going to want to do to be able to work with MongoDB is do npm install mongoose. In fact, let's go ahead and also put Cloudinary, because we'll probably be adding images to our application at some point. And let's go ahead and install cores as well as cookie parser. Let's see, is there anything else we're going to want to work with? Probably JSON web token. And let's see, any last things? Body parser. Definitely want to work with body parser. bcrypt. Whoops. bcrypt. And I think that should be it for now. Just to put a bit more explanation. We'll need Mongoose to work with our MongoDB. We'll need Mongoose to work with our MongoDB instance. Cloudinary is a CDN that we can use for uploading images. CORS stands for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing, and it's a mechanism for integrating applications, and it's going to make it a lot easier for us to work between our server and our client. Cookie parser is going to generate different cookies that we're going to be able to use in our application. JSON web token is going to go ahead and create tokens that you can use for login and authentication. Body parser so that we can work with JSON files, and bcrypt will be another type of encryption tool that we can use on those tokens. So let's go ahead and click enter, and all of those dependencies will install, and you should see it update here in our package.json. So those have been installed, but we want to do a couple of other installations too, just to make our development a lot easier to work with. We are going to essentially install some dev dependencies, and these are dependencies that we're going to be using predominantly when we're in development mode. So let's go ahead and do that. The way that we do this is we go npm install. I just do which is short for install. And then you can go ahead and type your package and then go ahead and do save dev. Essentially, we're saving this to dev because these are dependencies that we won't really need in production. It's just dependencies that we need to be able to work with here on our local machine. So let's go back a few spaces so that we can insert those packages. The one thing we will need is nodemon. Nodemon will help us whenever we launch our server. We can see the updates happen whenever a change happens, and I think that we can probably just work with that for now. So you can see here nodemon has been installed to our dev dependencies, which is exactly what we want. Now we're going to also need to do a little update to our scripts over here, because so far we've only got test. So let's go ahead. We're going to make a comma. We're going to open our inverted commas, and we're going to type start. In start, we are going to say and let's put the, actually we don't need the comma over there, nodemon index.js. And why is this doing that? Because I forgot to put the colon over there. Great, so we can save this, and what's going to happen is that when we start a server, or when we even start our front end, we will normally type npm start, and that will initiate this script over here. And when the script is initiated, it'll make use of the nodemon dependency that will look at the index.js file and wait for any changes in order to refresh the system. So that's wonderful. Now, we can't do that yet because we haven't actually got anything sitting in our index.js. So let's get into that file, and we're going to go ahead and start putting in our first few lines of code so that we can get this up and running. The typical way to do it in this instance is we would import each dependency as a constant. So for example, we will say const express equals require express. Then we're going to make express equal to its own variable, so it's a bit easier to type. Const app equals express as a function. Get rid of that full stop over there. Then we're going to want to assign a port value, so we will say const port equals, and now normally we would rely on a value to be in our environment variables for that port to really be shown, such as 8080, which might be what a lot of production ready services usually use. But in this case, we are just going to go ahead and say that if there is a variable available to us, use that, or use 4000. Next thing we want to do is get Mongoose up and running. So Mongoose require Mongoose. In fact, what we want to do is try and use the same quotation marks so that we don't have a ton of inconsistency in through our app. And then we're going to call our .env file also so that we can actually retrieve the values from inside there. .env. So that's really all we're going to need to work with today. The first thing we're going to want to do is say that call .env and call the config function, which will allow us to really look at any of our .env files. That's also how this process over here is going to work. In fact, just for being a bit safe, I'm going to stick that .env at the top. Wonderful. And now we're going to go ahead and make our connection to Mongoose. In fact, before we do that, let's go ahead and get our port up and running. So let's go app.listen. I'm going to say port, which is now a function where console.log, if true, server is running on, or well, on, we can say on local host $. Port. Whoop. There we go. That looks good. I think we've got an extra port sitting over there, so that should be about right. What are we missing? We want one more thing. Stick it like that, but something is still upset. All right, we need our inverted symbol over here. There we go. So that should be the most minimum we can do to get our server running. So let's try and get that started, see if it will tell us everything. That's strange. Control C, let's see, nvm version, node version manager. That's not what we want to see. We want to see our node version, and it seems to have come down to 14.15, which is okay, because if I say nvm list, you can see that I have a number of Node versions over here, and we are going to go ahead and just get version 16 to work. So nvm use. Now that should correct my issue that I was having there. You might not have this issue, especially since you've done a fresh download of Node. And you can see here that we have this server is running on localhost 4000, which is great. So that means our server is up and running, but we have not yet made our connection to our MongoDB database. So we're going to leave that running and see if the NodeMon manages to refresh everything as the changes come along. So what we want to do is call our Mongoose dependency, and we're going to say connect, which itself is a function. The connect is essentially waiting for our connection string. So we're going to go ahead and call our connection string from our .env file, which we called database access. And that should essentially do the job, but we want to be able to retrieve any details to tell us whether we have been successful or unsuccessful. So we will use the then function over here, which in itself will take another function that will display a console log of MongoDB connected message if it is successful. If it is not, we will use catch to catch an error, which itself will be a function that will log a console log of error connecting to MongoDB. So that should be it. We will go ahead and finish our lines over here and just put our semicolons where they need to be. And that's looking spick and span. Now let's see, it looks like server is running on localhost 4000 and MongoDB is successfully connected, which is wonderful. One thing I'm looking at over here, which I've forgotten to do, is to include the actual error that we've gone ahead and said, put in our placeholder over there. So there you have it. We are connected to our MongoDB server. If the response from our Mongoose Connect was negative, it would have responded with our error saying error connecting to MongoDB. So well done. You've done a great job. I've done a great job. Everyone's done a great job. I'm feeling much better today. So I hope that my speaking has been a lot more enthusiastic. Thank you so much for your time. And in the next lesson, what we'll be doing is we're probably going to go ahead and convert everything to TypeScript, which will mean that there'll be some syntactical changes that's gonna be happening over here. Well, to a lot of places. And we're also gonna want to rename this file to .ts, but we'll talk about that in the next video. Thanks so much for your time, guys.